coming behind us would have something to look up to or to look forward to. And so at any point in time, we want to make sure that we are leaving the footprints that others can follow. And what we do here on the Impact Series is that we bring people who are there, the place we are trying to get to, they are already there. And so they come on, they share with us a few things, and it makes our work easier, because if you already have the path to success, why are you going to stress yourself? Everything has already been laid out, so it makes our job easy. Mentorship is that thing that actually smoothens the road for you. You don't have to make certain mistakes. And so if you are still making some mistakes that people have already made and they found solutions to, then it means you are not paying attention to the mentors around you. And that's why we need to pay attention. That's why we bring such people here, so that they can share with us, or we can learn from them. And so this evening is one such opportunity, and we have an amazing gentleman. He's, definitely not new to this. And most of us would already know him, because he used to be quite prominent on our radios, and he left to do his own thing, and he will tell us why. I'm sure we'll figure out why by the end of the presentation. And so yes, just give me a short minute to sort out one technical issue, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, I think it's sorted. So let's get going. All right. So quickly, I'm going to introduce this amazing gentleman. And first of all, let's do a sound check. I hope you can hear me. Please, if you can hear me, let me know that you can hear me loud and clear. Type something in the comment section. Let me know that you can hear me. So if you can hear me, type your name in the comment section, so that I know for sure that you can indeed hear me. Great. Thanks for the feedback. Awesome. Enoch, Irene, good to have you here. And everybody else, you can introduce yourself. All right. So I have on the call right now an awesome gentleman. He's carrying the General Manager of WeComm. Now, WeComm is an agribusiness company, and he'll give us some details about it. But in his past life, he used to be on the City Breakfast Show, and he used to run a lot of things. He was one of the voices that whenever he spoke, a lot of us paid attention, because the man has facts, he has filler, he knows what he's talking about. He's an alumnus of KNUST, and he's doing a lot of amazing things. And right now he's cutting his teeth in agri sector, and that's why he's the best person to talk to us about opportunities in agribusiness. Not just for anybody or for everybody, but for especially those of us who think we don't have time, because he was at one point in school, he was working full time, and he was also running this thing on the side, so when it comes to time management, he also knows how to do that. So if you are here and you are struggling with time management, how to make it work, I think that this is an opportunity for you to learn a thing or two from this gentleman, and he's none other than Kojo Akoto Boateng. So boss, if you can hear me, please unmute your mic and let's have a conversation.
Yes, I can hear you, Doc. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all well.
Good evening. And thank you very much for joining us here tonight. I'm super excited, super excited. I think we can't hear you, please.
Good evening to you, Irene, Enoch, Sam, Justine, Razak, Prince, and everyone else on the call. My name is Kojo Akoto Boateng. I'm currently doing agribusiness and a few other things. In my previous life, I was mostly known to be a media person, but I'm a trained building technologist from KNUST. I'm currently struggling to finish my MPhil in sustainability science at Legon. And I work with the New Age Group. So the New Age Group is a group of companies. Currently, we have 3 companies. New Age Agri Solutions, which is an input supply and agribusiness company. We have Chigaba, which is an outgrower management company that has thousands of outgrowers under our wing. We support them with inputs and production support. And then there's WeComm, which I directly manage. So WeComm is an agribusiness development company. What we do is that if, say, Irene comes to me and tells me, Charlie, I want to go into agric, this and this and these are my ideas, how do I make it work? We sit down and then we help you develop your business concepts and also show you the ropes and help you to set up and run. In some instances, there are some people who want to probably do a JV. If there's an opportunity for that, we can do a joint venture and run alongside. We also have our crowdfunding scheme called Insiriwa, which between 2021 and now, we've raised money from the public through crowdfunding to do different projects. The first one was a 1,000-acre soya project in the north, and then a 1,000-acre maize project in the north. And then we did, last year, we did 1,000 acres of rice for the major season and about 698 acres for the minor season. And so that's Insiriwa, our crowdfunding platform. So basically, that's a bit about me. I also do construction. So the CCTV building in Adabraka, I was the project manager that led the design and the construction of the whole project. The new one in Tesano, I did that as well. For those of you who have been to Aviation Social Center, to the Bliss Family Entertainment, I was the project manager for that as well, from the design stage all through to procurement and construction. So I get my hands dirty a lot. That's why I love construction and agric.
Wow.
Yes. When Doc contacted me, he said he wanted us to talk about agribusiness and the opportunities within this space. We can't use an hour to do that. So today we'll brush over everything agribusiness. And in due course, we may have time to focus on specifics because agribusiness is really, really broad. So I'm going to share my screen now. And I have a quick presentation I want us to go through. And after that, we can have a question and answer time and wrap up. Please, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Good. So, okay, so I call this a beginner's guide to agribusiness. Basically to give you a general overview of agribusiness in Ghana and what the opportunities are. Now, Ghana, as we all know, has a population which is approximately 30 million. And I am 36 years old. And please hold on a second. Nana, I'm on a call, so please go downstairs, okay? Go and watch your movie with mommy, okay? Thank you. So I'm 36 years old, and our population dynamics, I am older than 73% of Ghana's population. Our total water resources is about 56.4 billion cubic meters. So Ghana has enough water to supply all the water needs of West Africa if we harness it. And our land size is 227,000 square kilometers. Ashanti region is 24,000 square kilometers, and the state of Israel is 22,000 square kilometers. I am sharing this because as we go along, you realize that we sit on gold. There's a lot of opportunity which we've not tapped. Because if you look at the agric export of the state of Israel, it's almost more than the agric export of the whole country. Meanwhile, Ashanti region is bigger than Israel, has more land than Israel, it has more water than Israel, and we are unable to do as much. So that's why I put these here, so that as we talk, we will get the right perspective about some of the things. The photo you see here is a group of farmers with some of our staff from Weta when we did a farmers Deba last year to distribute fertilizer and seed to them to grow our rice for us. Now, if you look at this screen, this is our agribusiness related imports into the country. The things that are produced within the agribusiness space that we import into Ghana. It's approximately $5 billion a year. Okay, and these include rice, which is 7.84% of our agribusiness imports, which is about $350 million a year. It includes wheat. It includes poultry, meat, which is about $250 million a year. It includes raw sugar, processed fish. It includes used clothing. Somebody might ask, why used clothing? A lot of the clothing we make in the world is from silk, cotton, wool, and all these three are from agric. We grew cotton in Ghana, but we've not been as clinical over the past few years. A lot of the cotton fields, we left them to die. If we paid attention to the silk industry, we could grow more silkworms to harvest silk. So used clothing is 3.64%. And some reports suggest that Ghana is the country that imports the most used clothing in the whole world. And these things we can produce locally. So that should give us a bit of perspective. Pure woven cotton, we import that. And packing bags, we import those. Socks, suits, a lot of things we do import. Bedspreads, all these here in the green column are clothing and textile related stuff from Agric that we import. There's also rubber footwear. We import over $50 million worth of that. There's fake hair. We import about $24 million worth of that. So for the ladies, the fake hair you wear, and for the lawyers, your fake hair is all categorized here. And then there's palm oil and all those things. Trunks and cases, so chop box. For the chop boxes we use for senior high schools, we make a lot of them locally, but there are some special trunks and cases that we import. Toilet paper, we import toilet paper, but there's a company in Akwamufie that uses bamboo to make tissue paper, that is toilet paper. There's an opportunity to use rice husk and agric waste to make all sorts of paper products. And this, where the mouse is, the Keza is, are paper-related products that we import. That runs into millions of dollars every year that we could produce. There's also plywood and a few other things that we import. So when we were in primary school and JSS, social studies, we were told that Ghana exports timber, Ghana exports this, Ghana exports that. With time, all those things that we used to be proud about and used to learn, we are losing out on all those things. And this just gives us a sense of what everything is. Now, I'll go to the food situation. So we import about $5 billion worth of agribusiness related stuff. And when it comes to actual food we eat, we import about $2 billion worth of that into the country annually. They include both raw and processed food items from China, Europe, the Americas, and other African and Asian countries. But strategically, as you saw in the first slide, this particular slide, we are endowed with all the resources to be food sufficient. So why are we not food sufficient? If you look at this particular chart, it shows you the three main grains that we eat in the country. Maize is number 1, rice is number 2, and soya is number 3. In 2016, we produced less than 2 million metric tons of maize. Sometime in 2020, we hit 3 million metric tons. Our projection for 2022 was 2 million metric tons, so it fell. But we need about 4 million metric tons of maize minimum a year to be able to eat our banku, our kinke, our porridge, and also to feed our poultry. That is the current poultry stock we have. If we are to be sufficient in poultry meat, we need to do at least 10 million metric tons of maize every year to feed ourselves and to feed our livestock. Rice as well, we only produce about 10 to 30% of the rice we eat locally. The rest all is imported. And as you can see this particular chart, we hit our highest sometime in 2020 and it's dropping again. Soya is used to make vegetable oil for cooking and other uses. And then the soya cake, which is a waste material from the processing, is used for animal feed, poultry, piggery, livestock, whatever. You can use it to feed them. But we are unable to produce enough soya in the country. So that also gives us a sense. So the three main grains that we eat, maize, rice, soya, we're unable to produce enough. There are some other grains like sorghum and millets that we produce, but the consumption of millet and sorghum has basically been limited to the northern regions. But the good news is that now Guinness Ghana Limited uses sorghum and maize to make Guinness Star and some of their drinks, and about 55% of their raw material is locally sourced, majority being the maize and the sorghum. So that's also an opportunity for people to tap into. Now, if you ask about opportunities in agribusiness, where are the opportunities? There are different areas in agribusiness that present an opportunity for you to invest, for you to solve a problem, and for you to contribute to national development. The basic one that we all know is production. So when somebody says they are farming poultry, or they are farming maize or cassava or whatever, They are in the actual production of crops and animals for food. So if you are into rearing snails, chicken, goats, farming cashew, farming cocoa, whatever, you are in the first phase, which is production, which is the most primary of all the processes. Now, the next one is processing. Once production is done, the raw material for production is processed into different products. So for rice, if we produce paddy rice, we will mill it into the long grain rice and the broken rice that you get for your jollof and your wache and all those things. If I produce, say, pigs, right, it can be converted into sausage. If I produce poultry, it can be processed into sausage. Cassava can be processed into gari. All sorts of things can be processed into different things. So processing is one of the key industries in agribusiness. And if you look at companies like Unilever, look at companies like Wilmar, you look at companies like Olam and all these companies, they are primarily agribusiness companies that are into processing. So people think that these FMCGs are trade companies, but if you look at them realistically, they take raw material and process and they trade. But because as consumers, we interface more with the trading activity, we think they are trading companies. They're actually agro-processing companies. And then there's aggregation. Aggregation is where at the end of the season, if we have your money, you can go up north or wherever there is production, right? To the Volta, wherever there is production, depending on the commodity you want, and buy from the smallholder farmers and buy and get a bulk to sell in bulk to other markets. So market women are largely aggregators. A lot of the processors also have aggregation companies that go to the farm gate to buy produce. What happens is that a lot of the farming we do in Ghana is smallholder, right? You have a farmer, does that. Most farmers, so the average smallholder holding for Ghana is about 2.5 acres. So the average smallholder farmer does 2.5 acres of production. So they are farming in bits and pieces. So these aggregators go and buy these bits and pieces, bulk it up in their warehouses and sell to the market or processing companies. And then there's also something I call franchise trade. You look at companies like KFC and all these people, they are also primarily agribusiness companies that are into processing and trading. So KFC has developed their recipe. In the Americas, they will buy bulk from poultry farms and potato producers and all that, and then they will process and sell. Now they have the franchise. So if I have money, I can have a KFC branch somewhere and pay for the franchise because KFC Global is doing the marketing and everything. They'll give you the recipe and everything and then use it to work. So KFC Ghana doesn't belong to the original KFC family. It belongs to Mohinani Group, who are the owners of Polytank, right? And they sell KFC products. So there's franchise trade. So if Dr. Kelvin's yam chips and all those things, if I want to do business with him and I'm in Nigeria, I can get a license from his franchise because now it's known, and then he'll help me with standardizing the product so that I can produce it for my market. There was also agric mechanization where a lot of farmers don't have their own tractors and harvesters. So there are people who buy tractors and harvesters and machinery we need for production and our activities, and then they rent it to us. So if you go to the agric production enclaves, there are mechanization companies and people who have tractors and equipment. So beginning of the season, these harvesters, these mechanization companies will bring, say, their plows to come and plow your land for you, and then you pay something for it. So they are mechanization. There are input supply companies, which my company does very well. We also do aggregation and processing as well and production, but input supply, there are companies that import fertilizer, seed, crop protection, and all sorts of things we need to produce. For example, if you are producing maize, you need seed, you need fertilizer, about 4 bags per acre. You need crop protection. Crop protection are chemicals we spray against insects and pests that come to, so they are pesticides, right? And then crop protection We also have those for weeds. So weedicides, we spray them to kill weeds so that our crops can grow well. So they are the input supply companies. So you can set up a shop in your village or anywhere there is demand for specific inputs, and then you sell them and you make money. And then there's agri financing, where you can finance farmers and companies to do production, and then they pay you back with some interest. Agri financing practically was supposed to be ADB's job as a policy bank, but over the years we've seen that ADB has been mainstream commercial banking than focusing on the policy. The other banks doing it, and there are individuals doing agri financing. And the latest innovations we have in the system are the crowd funds, right? The crowdfunding companies that take money from people like you, give it to farmers or use it to farm, and then they pay you back at the end of the season. That's a business I run. So we take money from you, use it to farm. At the end of the season, we pay you back. What that does for you is that you may not do production or processing or aggregation or franchise trade or mechanization or input supply, but you can sit at home and let your money work for you to get some returns in the agri space. And then there are other services like sales, communication, customer service, branding, extension services, so many other services within the agri space. So over the years, we've seen a lot of startups doing communication and value-added service for agri companies and for the agribusiness space, and from weather information and from this, from that. With the growth of the space too, we've seen food photography, videos for food and agribusiness, and all sorts of things also coming up. So Dr. Kelvin, I'll use you as an example again. Your products, to get it on the market, you need graphic designers, you need photographers, you need social media managers, you need marketers, you need salespeople who help you package your business. So all those are also things you can do in the agribusiness space. So there are 1,001 things you can do, but I decided to just highlight just these 8 areas as an initial cohort of areas that you can look into for opportunities in agribusiness. Now, when we talk about food production, we have piggeries. You can run a piggery, you can rear grass cutter, rabbits, snails, catfish, tilapia, goats, cattle, ostriches, ducks, and all these things I've written here are actually produced in Ghana. There are ostrich farms here. The last time I made this presentation, ostriches, who eats ostriches? There are a lot of people in this country who buy ostrich because it's good meat and they pay premium for it. So there are ostriches here. There are people who buy ostrich eggs and all that. The snail industry is growing because beyond just eating snails, there's a big market for the slime of snails. It's used in the perfume industry and it's used in other industries as well. So there's a big market for snail slime. Now, when it comes to the general crops, we know maize, we know soya, we know cassava, we know plantain, we know banana, we know millet, we know cowpea, cocoyam, sorghum. Now, these crops, we've been traditionally using them for our fufu, banku, and pesi, and all these things. But there are so many other things you can use with these crops, and so many technologies available at the moment that you can use to really add value to these crops to make money. And then there are vegetables, the various things we know, eggplant, pepper, cabbage, lettuce, all these things are also grown here. And you go into agroforestry, where people plant teak for its commercial value. These days, when you go to the market to buy wood for construction, back then you were getting proper wawa and udum. These days, you are getting cyber. That's why I put it at number 2. When you go, they will tell you they're giving you, say, wawa, they're lying. Mostly it's cyber. There is mahogany, there is baobab with all its derivatives. There is mango, it's one of the big industries in the country at the moment. There is coconut, which is also one of the big industries in the country at the moment. There is cocoa, and there is cashew. Did you know that about 8% of the total land area of Ghana is covered with cocoa? 8% of the total land area of Ghana is covered with cocoa. and cocoa gives us only about $2 billion a year. It adds only $2 billion to our economy, but the bulk of the cocoa we export generates over $100 billion for the value chain it lands in. So it's also something that you can look into and think about how to add value to cocoa in your own small way to make some good money. And then there are fruits like saursop, sweet sap, passion, passion is really growing, pawpaw. There are people exporting pawpaw, tamarind, which is becoming a super food, citrus. There are so many other things that you can grow in the superfood industry. And then there are herbs and spices. If you should go to Melcom or any of the big departmental stores, you see a lot of herbs and spices packaged from Europe, Spain, so countries like Spain, Italy, and all these things. Too many brands being imported into the country. We have local brands like Miss Cookie Spices, Mianan Foods, and all those things, but they cannot meet the needs, our herb and spice needs. So if you would also want to go into agribusiness, that is also an area that you can go into. Basil, the general akokomesa we know, the mints, the parsleys, the sages, the rosemaries, the oreganos, the thymes, all these things, the lemongrass and all these things are things you can grow to make some money. And a lot of these things can actually be grown at home, the herbs and spices and the veggies. So you can start learning how to manage some of these things at home before you expand into large scale. For some of the animals, the small ruminants like the grass cutters and the rabbits and all those things, you can grow some at home. Catfish and tilapia, those things, so you can keep some at home. So these are some of the general areas in food production. Now, everything imported into the country, if substituted locally, is business and money. So you saw in the things that we import, including trunks and plywood and wood products and all that, if in the tree category, you're able to have 100-acre mahogany plantation, you are $1 millionaire. If you're able to have 100-acre teak plantation, you're $1 millionaire. If you're able to have 100-acre mango plantation, you're $1 millionaire. So these are some of the things. If you're able to do any of these crops and do them very well, you could make money. Now, the challenges of agribusiness, one of the main challenges is capital, and is a challenge for a lot of industries in the country. Capital continues to be one of the biggest challenges for all of us. Access and the cost of capital has resulted in a slow growth of the industry. If I go to a bank right now for a loan to do maize or to do anything, basically I'll be paying about 35 to 40% per annum. And you go through a lot of stress to get the money anyway. And if you're doing a crop and your return on investment is say 40% and you're paying 35 to 40% to your bank, then what do you get back? Elsewhere, people are taking loans at 2%, 1% in other countries. So when they are farming, their return on investment is really high, so they are more competitive. And they're even getting subsidies plus the loans. But here, that is a big problem. Now, the cost of inputs. Input prices also increase regularly because a large percentage of their inputs are imported. When you look at the grains for maize, for example, because these days we are using a lot of hybrid seeds, a lot of them are imported. So when the dollar goes up, your cost goes up. We do not produce fertilizer in the country. We only blend inorganic fertilizer in the country. So we import a lot of the fertilizer. And when fertilizer prices go up on the world market, or our cedi misbehaves, or the dollar kicks us in the butt, our fertilizer prices go up. So over the past 3 years, fertilizer prices have increased by about 300%. So if you are doing production, those are some of the challenges we have to deal with. And there are too many uncertainties. Uncertainties in the global system, uncertainties locally as well. For example, if you're an agribusiness person who supplies the government of Ghana, you should know that you'll be banned and your money, you would lose your money unless you have strong links to have somebody to ensure that you are paid regularly. So global uncertainties, local uncertainties are also affecting agribusiness. And unbridled imports of cheaper produce into the market also doesn't make it viable to sell local production at competitive rates. until recently, foreign rice was cheaper than local rice in Ghana. Until recently, foreign rice was cheaper than local rice in Ghana. Foreign chicken is still local than local chicken. A lot of the things imported are still cheaper. Some of the reasons include they have cheaper capital. So when they are producing, their return on investment is higher. And because they have cheaper capital, they're able to produce large scale. And with agric, the more you expand, the lower your cost, because a lot of the capital costs and a lot of the fixed costs are spread. So they're able to produce large scale and reduce their costs and be more competitive. So importation and the policies have not really helped local producers. And so those are some of the challenges that we have. But there's still a growing need to feed Ghana and the world. So there's always demand for agri-produce and services, irrespective of all the imports and all these challenges. If you are able to invest practically in anything agric, it's like running a chop bar. You will always make money. So in Kumasi, there was a time that everybody wanted to set up a chop bar because the saying in Tree is that because every day people will eat. And depending on how you serve your portions, you can always make things work in your favor and get money. So as long as people eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or even once a day, there is always demand for agric produce and services. So if you are able to position yourself and do your research well and do whatever it is you have to do, you'll make good money. And there's no two ways about that. Now, what must every beginner know about agric? Usually when you talk about agric, people think that, oh, it's hose, cutlass, land, getting dirty, and all that. But I always say that agribusiness is like any other business or industry. Agribusiness is like any other business or industry. Strategic research, planning, and faultless execution must be used to execute profitable businesses. At this point, I'd like to ask Dr. Kelvin a question, or okay, let me ask a different person the question. Irene, if you don't mind, can I engage you for just a minute? If Irene is not ready.
Yes, sure. It's fine, Kojo. If I can answer, I'll go ahead and answer.
Yes. Irene, what industry are you in?
Reproductive health, and then health and wellness, network marketing.
Good. So you're practically in the health space, right?
Yes. So health space.
Good. So if I want to start a business like yours, what should I do? What must I do?
I think, first of all, you need capital. I think maybe that's one of the key things, right? To get but first you need a plan. You need a plan, right, of how you intend to go about your business. And then you need capital. Also need to determine who you are going to work with, or how you are going to, like how you're going to carry out the day-to-day activities of the business. Do you need support at the moment, or is it something that you can run by yourself for the moment? So I think that that's one key thing. Maybe as time goes on, maybe then you'll see how you have to scale, so like how you can bring a larger team. And then marketing, because of course the goods need to move, right?
Yeah.
If it's healthcare, if it's health products, so the products need to go. So how are you going to market? Who's going to help you market? Maybe so these days we're in a world of social media, right?
I think you've done my job for me. I think you've done my job.
Okay, so let me pause.
Thank you. So
Sure.
like Irene said, if you want to do any business, you go through the whole ideation, project development, product development, planning, your staffing needs, the knowledge base you need, equipment, your market, your marketing, everything. But what we've seen over the years is, you see people abroad or some people local here, they have money, farming. So they go and buy land. Then they find some boys in the area. Oh, we can do it for you. Then they give them money. Oh, bro, let's do this. Oh, let's keep cattle. They give them money. Then 3 months later, they go and things are not, then they come and sit on social media to say that farming is not lucrative, it's a waste of time. Agribusiness, like any other business or industry, involves proper business planning. So you have to plan every little bit of it. It's actually more scientific than other industries because you are using a seed to produce a plant to harvest from it. So it's like giving birth to a human being, making love, impregnating a woman, taking care of the pregnancy, going for antenatal, everything, to the point where you give birth to the baby and the postnatal care before the baby grows and they can stand on their own. That's the same thing with agribusiness. But people just jump into it and they think it's easy because largely illiterate people are in that particular space. So if they are doing it because they've done it over the years and they've been apprentices of agribusiness. So if it's farming, they are farming, they learned it from childhood. So they have the knowledge and the skill. They are not doing it as efficiently as they have to, but in some instances, they are even doing it better than those of us who have gone to school to study agribusiness. So you need to really research and plan for it. If you want to set up a hospital, you don't just go and build a structure and say, oh, there's this boy here who always talks about para and things, so he knows it. So let me put him in as a doctor. You always need the most qualified people to do that. It's the same thing for agribusiness. So if you are planning on doing agribusiness, your planning should be on point as NASA planning a space mission. Dot all your I's, cross all your T's, get everything properly planned before you go in. Else you will burn your money. Else you will waste your money. And so that is what everyone must know before they go into agribusiness. I think I exported the wrong. There are other slides that must show, but it's okay. We can go on. So like I said, agribusiness requires us to be very strategic in our planning before we go in. Before you go into any production, you should think about possible processing or aggregation or sales, or how to put it on the market and how you are going to finance it and where you are getting your inputs. If you don't think about any of these things and you just jump in, you find yourself wanting. I'll give you an example. The average yield per hectare for rice in the country is about 3 tons. Our farms are able to generate 5.5 tons. It is not rocket science. We know that rice needs this amount of water at this stage and this amount of water at that stage. We know that an acre of rice, these are the nutrients that must go into the soil for the rice. So 4 bags of fertilizer. We know that when we plant and it starts germinating after a week or two, we have to go and do thinning. All these processes are there and we've developed a schedule for them. So we go and do all these activities on time. So the plants, just like a human being in the mother's stomach, you have to take your vitamins, you have to drink water, you have to rest well, you have to eat well, you don't have to stress yourself. We go through all that process. So at the end of the day, we get almost double the average yield in the country. So those are some of the things. So if you don't plan any of these things very well, you end up going in the Nwakoshi Osika. It's like being in the desert, right? And producing warm jackets in the desert. You always have to know your market and what your market needs. If you're in the Sahara Desert, you have to produce clothes that will let people's skins breathe. So if you're producing maize, you need to have off-taker agreements with poultry farms, processors, market women, so that you know that once you harvest, they are buying. The challenge with a lot of the things we have is that their shelf lives are very short, especially vegetables and those things. So if you are going into all those things, you need to have a processing mindset, or you need to have your market already sorted, so that as soon as you harvest, it's going into the market. If you don't do that and you produce anything, you will fail. When the catfish craze came, a lot of people invested in catfish. I invested in catfish. So you see somebody building a farm capacity of, say, 20,000 catfish. And when they begin, they will stock all the tanks. So all the 20,000 catfish get ready at the same time. Now, when they are ready, you don't have a buyer who is buying all the 20,000 catfish. So they are grown to 1 kilogram. And because if you cannot harvest them all at a go, you keep feeding them. So they are the market size you want to sell, but you keep feeding them, which feed incurs extra cost. So you'll be losing your profits on keeping the fish. But once you stagger the stocking of your tanks. So if you have a 20,000 capacity, you can stock them 500, 500, 500, 500, 500, 500, so that every 2 weeks you are stocking 500. So when you harvest 500 or 1,000 this week, by next week, the next batch that you stocked are ready for harvest at the right size. So you are not overgrowing them or overfeeding them. So you sell. By the next week, the next stock is also ready. Then you sell. Once you harvest the first one, you replace. So by the time you go around all your tanks and you come back to the first one you harvested, it's also ready to be harvested. So it keeps your cash flow going all the time. But some people will do everything in bulk at a time, and then they have to harvest at a go. For example, if you are doing rice and you are doing 10,000 acres and you plant all at a go, you cannot harvest at a go because you won't have the harvesters to harvest everything at a go. So you realize that some of them will get too dry, and then when you harvest and you mill, they become broken rice, which won't give you value. So when we are doing our rice, we'll plant, let's say, this section of the rice this week. Then 2 weeks later, we'll plant another section. So when we start harvesting, we harvest, say, 100 acres. We dry, we take it to the mill, and then we start processing. We harvest another 100 acres. We take it to the dryer. So by the time we finish milling the first 100 acres, the one in the dryer is ready. Then it also moves into the mill. Then it goes on and on and on and on. So these management practices are key to know when you're doing anything agribusiness. So there are so many small things when it comes to agribusiness. When we get the time and the chance to treat them sector by sector, then we can go deep. For example, if you want to go into cash crop, right? What cash crop should you go into? Should you look at local consumption, or you should look at export? If you're looking at local consumption, what are your avenues? If you're looking at export, what are the things you need to meet? For example, if you are growing anything to be exported into the EU, there are specific strict regulations and standards you must meet. There are the global gap standards, there are these standards, that standard. Are you ready to go through all those certifications to export? Is it worth your while? So there are different things when it comes to the different commodities, the different sectors of agribusiness. And when we have the opportunity again, we can go deeper into some of those things. So for now, I'll end my general overview of agribusiness, opportunities in agribusiness, or what I call a beginner's guide to agribusiness here. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Wow, Charlie, thanks a lot. That's a very deep overview. I mean, I wish there was more time to go into even more details, but this has given me a lot of perspective, and I hope those of us on the call have also got some perspective. I have quite a lot of questions, but I'm just going to ask. I'm going to start off by asking one, and I'll give the floor to anybody who wants to ask questions. So please, whilst we are preparing, if you have a question, please put your hand up so that we can give you the permission to unmute your mic, and then you can ask a question. So go ahead and put your hand up. And so I'm going to set the pace by asking the first question. But thank you very much for all that you have shared. I mean, it's very, very insightful. But you spoke about the cost of capital and skill and all those things. But most of us, we are JJCs. We are just trying to, Charlie, do something small here and something there. So and also, of course, there's the issue of spoilage. So you produce the thing in the spoilage. I know you addressed this later on. So my question is, with all these things, high cost of capital, the risk of spoilage and all those things, and the fact that the imported products are coming in with a lot of subsidies, how are you then able to produce the thing and then sell at an affordable price for people to actually buy, and then you end up making profits? Because if you obviously don't make profit, then you're not in business. I mean, business thrives on profit. So I don't know if it's an easy question to answer, but since you are now directly in the space, how is it possible for those of us who are trying to start on a small scale to actually make some profits and stay in business to grow it?
I'm sharing another. Can you see this?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, so we don't have money, but I want to do agribusiness. So what should we do? Let's employ the same principle of startups. Think big, start small, scale fast, right?
Yes.
If you want to grow maize, for example, and you have 1 acre of land, it will cost you 3,300 acres to buy your seed, weedicide, herbicide, insecticide, and your fertilizers to plant maize. 3,300 acres. For the average middle-class person, you should be able to find 3,300 cedis per to plant an acre of maize, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you do this protocol very well, you get at least 30 bags of maize. Now, a bag of maize is selling. Nana, thank you for the water, so please go down, okay? Now, a bag of maize is selling for 200 cedis. So that brings you to 6,000 Ghana cedis, right? Now, let's say cost of labor and other activities on the land is also 1,200. So your cost of production is about maybe 4,500 or 5,000 cedis, right? But you're earning minimum 6,000 cedis back. And when you plant maize, it takes you 115 days, 120 days. So let's say 3 months or 4 months, right? So in 4 or 5 months, you are making a profit of 1,000 cedis. If you have to do that in percentage term on your investment, it's better than you would get from any of your banking stuff, right? So you can start small. If you realistically start doing, say, 5 acres of maize, you're getting 5,000 cedis minimum, right? In 5 months. That is not bad, looking at it from the investment perspective. So if you want to do anything agribusiness, I always say that start very small and be experimental. A lot of the things that I do, I have been very intentionally experimental about them. So I experiment and I go along with it. Once I feel that at this particular point, I have enough skill, then I'll expand. When we started cashew about 12 years ago with my mother, back then it was being promoted. It's over 12 years ago, like 16, 17 years ago by Kofo's government. We're not sure what cashew was. So we did about 2 acres. Once we did it and we got to know how to manage your cashew fields, and we expanded to 6 acres. Then at a point, 10 acres. Now we have about 25 acres of cashew, right? And if you sit on 25 acres of cashew and the prices are good, realistically, if you're a bank teller, you can quit your job and live on the cashew money. So it's like any other business. You have to think big. If you do your research and put everything together, you start very small so that you reduce the risk. Sometimes when you start big and you are hit, you are really hit. So you think you start small and you scale very fast.
All right. Thank you very much. So think, start small and scale fast. Okay, I've made a note of that. All right, guys, the floor is open. If anybody has a question they want to ask, please put up your hand and we'll give you the opportunity to ask your question. Time is fast spent, so you don't want to miss this opportunity. Please go ahead and put up your hand and we can unmute your mic. Okay, Irene. Okay, Irene, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Kojo. Great presentation. Thanks for putting this together, Dr. Kelvin. So question is that, so Kojo mentioned that he and his mother currently have 25 acres of cashew, right? So let's say that, okay, so I'm a busy person, right? I guess that all of us, are busy or engaged in different activities, right? What tips or what advice would you give to us who want to start, right? Because for instance, I wouldn't probably be able to go and then live at the area where I'm farming, right? Or be at the area, right? So in terms of maybe hiring workers, what's the best way to go about handling that?
Yes,
taking the fact, but then how, I don't know if you are getting my question.
Yeah. I get you. One of the biggest problems a lot of people we've spoken to over the years is how unreliable workers are when it comes to agribusiness. But the truth is, it's everywhere. It's not just agribusiness. Every business you run, the kind of workers you get and the support system you get, they're unreliable. They will steal from you and everything. you may want to find land close to where you work. You may want to find land close to where you work. As much as possible, you may want to partner other people in the area so that when it comes to monitoring and supervision of your business, it's always not you. What I've noticed is that a lot of us always want to go alone. So you're a very busy person. Maybe you have some 200,000 sitting somewhere, you want to invest in something, but you still want to own it alone. It's always best to research and get the right people and also give them value. Let me give you this example beyond agribusiness. The first business I started was a technology company. It's called Stimulus Technologies Limited. We are into websites, web apps, and all those things. We built Prudential Life website. We built Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Noguchi, EIB, CT, CDD. Like, we've done work, international and local websites, over 200 websites to our credit. When I started that business, I had basic web development and coding knowledge, right? And I employed some people. With time, I realized that one of them was very committed to the business. So I sat him down and I gave him a stake in the business. In fact, when I was doing that, my friend said it was foolish. I foolishly gave, so I'm going to use the example of my friends. I foolishly gave him 50% of the business, right? Now, 7 years on, the business is thriving. The business employs new people. I do not play in the day-to-day activities of the business, and the business is making money. You may say that my case is unique because I probably chanced upon a very good person. We are all good people and we are all bad people. It depends on the conditions we find ourselves in. So I believe that if you want to do agribusiness or any other business for that matter, you need to look at the environment, your geographical location, and the resources available. If there are incentives you can use to attract the values you want from the people, right, you then use those incentives to get those values. So there are a lot of these agric. Look, if you go to Legon right now and you go to the School of Agric and you go and see Prof. Irene, and you tell her, Charlie, I want to do agric, I have land here, and I'm looking for trusted people to work with. She may be able to find some of her students who are not working, but who are graduates from agribusiness to go work with you. If you design the business and plan like a proper business and you put in place all the cost lines, wages and salaries and all those things, and you did your modeling and your returns can pay that person well, and you pick the person on, I'm sure you can do something. So it's not a straightforward answer. Like any other business, getting people to work with is difficult. When we started the cashew, my mom was in Kumasi, and we realized that when it was time to harvest, whenever we go, we don't get much because the people harvest the thing and go and sell it and tell us stories. So with time, I built a house in the village. My mom moved there, went to stay there because it's our own village. That's where we are from. And for the past 15 years, she's been there. And when she moved there, we realized that we could expand. So we've expanded that, and cashew is making us money. So you always need a trusted partner or a trusted person to work on it for you. And like any other business, you face challenges with people. So you have to pray, you have to research, you have to look into the system. There are agribusiness associations and groups that you can tap into to see if you can get people you can work with or partner to work with. I think this is the best answer I can give you, Irene.
All right, we have Kofi also with his hand up. So Kofi, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kelvin, for organizing this very, very nice program. And to the presenter, Kojo Akoto Boateng, I just want to tell you I'm a very, very big fan of yours. You know, some years back, I had a very long commute from my where I was living to my workplace, and the city breakfast show really took the stress out of the long drive. So I just want to thank you so much. It's a great opportunity to be in this meeting with you. So to my question, I just wanted to ask about the land aspect of the business. What do you advise in acquiring land to do this agribusiness? Is leasing better, or do you have to buy? You know, I just want a bit of advice from that angle. Thank you.
Thank you too. It depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it. For example, if you want to do tree crops, cocoa, coconut, and all these things, these are long-term crops, right? When you plant any of them, you have to wait for 4 years before you start harvesting. So you may want to consider a long lease from the landowners. Now, the land administration system has changed. The new land laws does not allow landowners to sell farmlands outright. I've not read it in detail, but these are some of the summaries I know. So you can only lease the land for a certain period, right? So you should always consider a long lease of about 30, 40 years. Why am I saying 30 years? We are all in our 30s. Yacha, in 30 years, you lease it for about 30 years. And as you go along, you can extend and renew if you see more opportunities going forward. If you are doing grains, for example, maize, soya, sorghum, and all those things, there are places you can rent land for the season. So you can rent land for like a year for, say, 100 cedis per acre for the year. So if you want to do, if you don't have enough capital to lease the land long term, there are places you can rent land to farm. So you rent for the year, you farm, you make extra money, then you rent some more to farm, you build your capital, and then you may consider leasing for the long term. Last time I was in the eastern region to look for land for a 100-acre maize project. That's around Manguasi. They told me an acre was going for 10,000 cedis, right? So for the 100 acres, I needed 1 million Ghana cedis to buy. Who has 1 million Ghana cedis to go and buy land? Then once you buy the land, you do land development where you go and clear the trees, and if you have to do irrigation, you do that as well. Then once you finish that, you need to look for money for your input and mechanization. It doesn't make sense, right? So those are some of the things. I have been on a campaign to get the states and landowners, like the big chiefs and institutions, to release the lands they have. For example, if, let me use Amrahia as an example. I live in Amrahia. The chiefs of Katamansu should be able to release like 1,000 acres of land. And then there's an arrangement to develop the land and leave it there for people to rent to farm, so that your initial capital cost is not high. Because people have to find a lot of money to buy land and lease land long-term to farm, that's what is resulting in the case where we don't have a lot of large-scale commercial farmers, right? Because we don't have the capital. Banks won't lend to you. If we are lending to you now, they won't give you a moratorium before you start paying. The moment they give you the money now, they expect you to start paying. Now you're going to buy land, clear the land, develop the land, make it ready. It's some way. So you may want to consider leasing if you want to do tree crops and long-term crops, or you rent. If you are doing something like rice, you don't want to rent. You have to lease for like 5-10 years, because once you get the land, you need to do land development and build your irrigation canals and all those things. You'll use about 6 months to do that. So if you are renting land and investing so much in that, it doesn't make sense. So it depends on what you want to do, really.
All right, thank you very much for that, Kojo. And so just to clarify, rent is like was short-term, month-to-month, and then lease is counted in years. Is that what we are talking about?
Yes. So the rent, they usually do it annual, right?
Okay.
So you rent the land for a year, and the leases are usually 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, 40 years, depending on you. But if you are doing any of the cash crops, in 30 years, in even 15 years, you would have gotten all your returns and made so much profit from it. So if you don't have so much money and you're not greedy, you can lease the land for, say, 20 years, right? In the first
but a little greed is required in business. Otherwise, you have to aspire big aspiration.
Yes, a little greed is required in business, but sometimes if you think sustainably, sometimes people like us go into people's villages and their lands to take their land almost forever to farm. And because the locals don't have the financial capital strength we have, they're reduced to farming their 1 acre, 2 acres. So how about you lease the land for 20 years, 30 years? Once you finish, the land reverts back to the owners and the community. So the community can also benefit from it. You get it?
Yes.
Because we are moving from the city to take lands from villages, and people from the villages are rather moving to the cities to come and look for jobs. There should be a way where we all work together with our resources from the city and partner the people in the villages. For example, if the villages are all going to put aside 1,000 acres, each village put aside 1,000 acres, and we get partners like us to come and sort of develop them, then every person who wants to farm, whether long-term or short-term, you take your 5 acres, you farm. At the end of the season, you pay for your land rent, even with your produce, like it used to happen in the olden days, right? Our forebears were very smart. They understand the dynamics of resource sharing. It's just that we've over-deployed capitalization and profit seeking such that we've thrown away some of those principles, and now it's becoming a problem for us. So those are some of the things.
All right. So there's been a lot of challenges have been discussed. But as you're wrapping up, I want you to tell us, so is it worth it to go into agribusiness today?
Well, Doc, you eat every day. You eat every day. So if you eating every day is worth it, then it's also very worth it for somebody to plant for you to eat. That's number one. And as long as people will keep eating, there'll be demand for agribusiness products. The thing is that in Africa, we underproduce the food we need. So with anything you do, like I said, if you structure your business right, and dot all your I's and cross all your T's, you will make profit. If you structure it right, you make profit. In fact, these days, there's even agric insurance. So we take agric insurance. So you plant and you have your protocols, and a disaster happens, agric insurance comes to your aid. Back then, all those things were not there. So if you go into farming and something happens, then that's just about it. So there are different things. Like I said, one day when we have the time, we can take some of the things step by step. Maybe you can put up a poll and ask participants if they want us to talk, say, about poultry industry, or talk about, say, the grains industry or tree crops. Then we have a full presentation on tree crops and everything, go through business plans for these things, for you to understand what goes into it and some of the returns. And it will blow your mind to know that maize, rice, and soya, those things are some of the least valuable agri-produce if you are producing them for business when it comes to returns, right? There are things that can give you up to 100% return on investment per season. Wow. It's all about planting it right. For example, pepper and tomatoes and all those things. The reason why we are suffering in this country is post-harvest losses. So if we had simple technologies to process some of these things, we'll be getting close to 100% return on investment on some of these veggies. I have started experimenting a few things, and for the purpose of this session, I'll share. So I have a tomato powder product, right? So you take the tomatoes, you dehydrate, convert to powder, and you can store for up to 5 years. So all the tomato going waste, if we had simple technologies at the farm gates, they could process some of them. We eat what we need to eat now, and we convert a lot of the rest into powder. And almost all the things we eat can be converted into powder and rehydrated. There's also freeze drying technology that you can use to freeze dry almost every vegetable, every herb, meat, even eggs. You can freeze dry eggs and package them and eat them later, convert them into powder. So these are the things that the West has that we don't have. So all these foodstuffs, canned food, and all these things we are eating are things that we process. We don't have that processing capacity. Luckily for us, we have the sun. So we can use solar drying technologies to dry a lot of the things we have, and then augment that with gas drying in dehydrators and free drying technologies to keep the value within. But we lose a lot when it comes to agribusiness. So these are some of the things.
Well, guys, you heard it. We'll definitely do that poll, and I'm sure we'll get Kojo to come again. Hopefully next month. I mean, Charlie, you have to make time and come next month and let's discuss one. So we'll do the poll and we'll pick one subject that we can delve deeper into it. But quickly, there are some three notes in the chat box. Let me just go through them so that you can touch on them before we disperse. So the first one is from Irene. She says that. You mentioned that you can take the stress off our heads. I think, okay, let me read. He mentioned how we can partner with him and take the stress off our heads. Can you please let him go over that again before we close? Okay. And then the second one is talking about the details about the crowdfunding aspect of your business. What's the risk involved in it for me as an investor? Okay, so those are the two.
So let's assume Irene wants to go into rice production. Irene is a busy woman in Accra. She cannot be in the bush even one day to supervise. I have agronomists, I have experience. So Irene will bring some funding based on the scope she wants to do. If I have to also bring funding or whatever resources, I bring it. We can have a joint venture and we do Irene Rice. Or Irene can employ me as a farm management agency to manage her farming business. And then we charge management fees. So that's also there. Or Irene could just lend me money through my crowdfunding scheme. I'll use it to farm. At the end of the season, I'll give her money back plus some interest. That is also there. So anything you want to do in Agric, or Irene could just come and we sit her down and develop the whole business and give it to her to go and execute if she has the capacity to execute. So those are some of the things I meant to say when I said you could come to us for us to help you. So that's it. Gavo wanted to know about the crowdfunding aspect of our business. So if you don't mind, I can use the next 2 minutes and share my screen again and show you something about the crowdfunding aspect of our business. Right. So let me go here. So we call it Nsiriwa. And that's the crowdfunding business. We founded it in 2021. Now, it's a crowdfunding platform that enables you to sponsor farms. We don't use invest in farms because we are not a banking institution and they are still working on our law and regulations. So we use the term sponsor. So you sponsor farms and food production activities and get return on sponsorship. And since 2021, we have raised funds to support the production of maize, soya, and rice on about 5,000 acres of land under large-scale irrigation and smallholder agro groups. We funded production activities that supported over 700 farmers over the period between 2021 and 2022. And we've done a total of 5,000 acres of rice, soya, and maize. We've done them in Tumu, in Esuchari, in Weta, in Poglo, in Golokwati, and Walewale. Our soya was sold to Vesta Oil Mills and Ghana Nuts Limited. They use it to make vegetable oil. Our maize is sold to Rosan's Food Limited and runs both farms. They use it to their large-scale poultry farms, about 50. Rosan's is about 50,000 capacity poultry farm. Rasboat is also about 50,000. And rice goes to New Age Rice Mills. That is what became the EVV rice. Now, the people you see in the photo are people who are sponsors who contributed to the production for the rice project. So we organize regular trips to the farm for them to see what's happening. So if you can't be an active farm and get your hands dirty, at least you can go to the farm regularly to see what's happening, also to learn about the various commodities we work on. So our mission basically is to create opportunities for people interested in farming but cannot actively do it, to invest in farming and agri production, help people live the dream of being virtual farmers while galvanizing support for smallholder farmers and value chain actors. So EVV Rice is our rice brand. Last year, we raised 2.2 million cedis for the major season rice project, and we did 1,000 acres. Minor season, we raised 1.79 million cedis for the minor season rice project, and we did 698 acres of rice. And so over the years, these are the previous projects we've done. We did soya at Babato, which is a fully irrigated farming company in the Savannah region, 1,000 acres. We did maize in Babato, also 1,000 acres. For the soya, the duration of 6 months, we were able to pay 15% return on sponsorship to our sponsors. The maize, the duration was 6 months. We did 14% return on sponsorship to our sponsors. The rice major season, it was 9 months. We did 17% return on sponsorship. The reason why rice was 9 months instead of 6 months is that back then we didn't have a rice mill of our own. We were milling with other people, and the milling process was inconsistent. So we had to stretch the timing so that we could mill all the rice we're producing. Like I said, if you are growing and you grow it in bulk and you don't have the right milling and harvesting, so we spread it such that we could harvest in bits and pieces and mill and put on the market. But now we've built our own rice mill. So we are working with a 6-month cycle for rice. The rice is ready in 4 months. We harvest within a month and mill and put it on the market and sell and get money back. At the height of the fertilizer crisis, we did a fertilizer project where we raised money to buy fertilizer for farmers in Tumu and Wale. We did 1,800 acres of that, and we were able to pay the sponsors 12-month return after 6 months. Now, we have a minor season running. Our target was to do 2,500 acres. We couldn't. We did only 698 acres. And the projected return on sponsorship is 16 to 20%. Now, our returns are always not fixed. It's a range. You're seeing these fixed numbers here because that was what we got after we harvested. For the soya, the range was 13 to 16%, no, 12 to 16%, but the harvest was good, so we were able to pay 15%. The maize, the range was 12 to 17%, we were able to pay 14%. The rice was 13 to 19%, we were able to pay 17%. Fertilizer was 12 to 14%, we paid 12% because the whole season was basa and we got everything late, so our yields were not that good, so we were able to pay 12%. And rice, the minor season, we project to pay between 16 to 20% because now local rice is cheaper than foreign rice. Local rice is also as quality as foreign rice, so there is demand and the pricing is good, so we can pay between 16 to 20%. So for the upcoming major season of 2023, we are raising funds to farm 1,500 acres of rice in Esuchari, Ogolo, Kwati, Weta, and Poglo. Now, this project begins in April and ends in September 2023, so it's 6 months. The cost per acre is 3,480 cedis, and the expected return on sponsorship is between 16 to 20%. So if you want to sponsor, you go to nsirwa.com.gh, you click on sponsor, then you can register or sign in, and then you complete your KYC forms. You take your national ID, your address, and all those things, and then you choose Nsirwa Rice. You choose the number of acres you want to sponsor. You can make payments with your Momo or your Visa card on the platform, or you can do a bank transfer of the platform. And so this is the cost of production per acre. For seed, we need 40 kg per acre, and it's 16 Ghana cedis. We decide 120 cedis. So we've listed all the things that go into the production, and it comes to 3,480 cedis. And for the major season, as I said, it runs for 6 months from April to September 2023. Expected returns for sponsors is valued between 16 to 20% of sponsored amounts. And we give regular updates via our website, our Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp as well. So we create a WhatsApp group and put all the sponsors for the season in it. And then we give updates, and then we also take you to the field. So this is basically Nsirwa, and it's run by WeComm Agri-Media, our partners, New Age, Chigaba, and the Ghana Agric Insurance Pool. So that's basically about our crowdfunding. So those who asked for the questions, that's the question on the crowdfunding. That's a quick update on that. Thank you.
Please, somebody wants to know, this one, does debt exchange affect it?
Debt exchange doesn't affect this because this is real sector investment. We take the money, we go and buy seed and fertilizer, and we farm. We are not going to buy government bonds. What will affect it is the various challenges with farming. So pest, disease, and all those things. For the rice, we farm the rice in irrigated fields, so we don't have problem with water. But the various challenges with farming are some of the things that are the risks involved. That's why we also ensure that we are always in the field working. The reason why I left radio is because I can't possibly take people's 2.2 million cedis that we are farming rice, and I'm always sitting on radio in the morning talking when the farm is in the bush. You need to be present to ensure that you are doing right by people's money. And it's not only just for people's money, you're also protecting your image, because in the end, I'm far. People will say, radios are they be so there are a lot of things at stake. You get it. So in any business, there are risks. Main risk mitigation is we take agricultural insurance, so that CBB, if everything goes south, at least we will get our investment back. Our primary principal will get it back. We also make sure we use the right protocols, and we are always present to do the right thing to give us the returns we are looking for.
All right. Thank you very much. This has been a very enlightening session. I'm very, very excited for the opportunities that abound in agri sector. I mean, I'm definitely interested. I mean, I've always been biased towards agri. It's just that time and money. So now that we have a means to get started small, we'll definitely do it. And I'm excited about this one. Thank you very much, Kojo, for spending this time with us. And we'll definitely bring you back. I mean, we'll set that pool and then bring you back to talk about whichever industry that we settle on. So that
someone told him about.
Hello? Kojo, you were saying something? All right, I think the network has done its thing. All right, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm super excited about the things I've heard today, and I'm definitely going to put them into practice, because as Kojo said, people will definitely always eat. And as people are going to eat, we definitely have to find ways and means of making sure that they're eating things that are made right here in this country. So that's the call to us. It's our country. We have to be able to build it. And of course, when the products are available, we have to buy made in Ghana, because that's the ultimate goal. We need to buy made in Ghana so that the Ghana industries can grow. So thank you very much for spending your evening with me, Kojo. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. And I hope that when we invite you again, you're going to show up. Yes, I was just going to ask about your contact, and he has shared his contact in the chat box. So please, you can take the contact details. It's being shared on the chat box. So please take the details and then connect with him directly, so that we can definitely take this discussion further. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm super excited. The Impact series is done every 2 weeks. So twice a month, basically, twice every month, and where we invite a resource person to come and impact us, so that we can begin to shape our minds and begin to plan how we're going to execute, the year. And so thank you very much for honoring my invitation to be here this time around. The next session is going to be in 2 weeks. And so please make a point to be a part of that. Have a fabulous evening. And Kojo's details are in the chat box, so please take them and get in touch. Today, not tomorrow, right now. Stay blessed, guys.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
You too. Thank you very much.